the Georgia Peach, the gorgeous goat, the host with the most. We're going to get in here with the God Code by Greg Brandon.
In our DNA, it exists. It's been revealed, it's been read, it's been translated, and by following the instructions left to us in some of our most ancient and cherished traditions, we can now literally read the code of life as the letters of ancient alphabets. And when we do so, our genetic code becomes words, and the words become sentences. Although you may have always sensed that we're here on purpose, and that whoever, whatever is responsible for our being here may have left something hidden for us, deep in the mystery of our lives long ago. You may be surprised at just how powerfully you're affected by the clarity of the message you're about to hear, the message that lives in every cell of your body. Well, as you can imagine, the emotional experience that goes along with researching this kind of information has had a tremendously profound and powerful effect on me personally. I've always believed that we are here on purpose, that we're an intentional species, that we're a product of an intentional creation that began long ago. And while I confess I've never fully understood the how or the why of our existence, I am convinced beyond any reasonable doubt. When I see the complexity of life, the complexity of the DNA in our bodies, I know that we're here by design. Now, the precise details of how this is done, I've described in the book, The God Code. That's beyond the scope of everything that we're going to do here today. What I'd like for you to know is those details are available. We're going to do this at a very high level. We're going to do it very simply. All we're doing is now matching the numbers that we've converted the elements of life into to the letters of the ancient alphabets. And when we do that, the modern element hydrogen becomes the Hebrew letter Yud, or Y. The element nitrogen becomes the Hebrew letter He, or H. The element of oxygen becomes the Hebrew letter V, or Vav. The modern element carbon becomes G, or Gimel. All we've done is we've treated the modern elements as we would with gematria, and we've treated the ancient letters as we would with science. We're giving both ways of knowing the same consideration. When we do that, we can now apply these letters to the bases of our DNA, and here's what happens. Here's what happens. Every place we see a hydrogen, it becomes a Y. Every place we see a nitrogen, it becomes an H. Every place we see an oxygen, it becomes a V. Every place we see carbon, it becomes a G. And this is for the first layer, the first level of the message in our cells. So we're converting the elements into numbers. We're converting the numbers into letters. And when we do that, the strand of DNA literally becomes different combinations of those letters for the first layer in the cells of our bodies. Different combinations of the letters Y, H, V, G. Y, H, V, G. What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, the first layer, and this is the key, the first layer to the introduction in the cells of our bodies literally translates into only two words, two very powerful, very potent words. YHVG. YH literally translates into English, and you already know this because we spoke about it, it's the ancient name of God, or the word eternal. YH, Yah, translates to the word God, eternal. VG, or VG, GV in the Hebrew traditions, translates literally into the words within the body. Within the body. When you put these together, what we find is that the first layer of the message in the cells of all life, the first layer of the message in the cells of your body literally translates into the English words, God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. It doesn't say who God is or where God has come from, or how the message even got there. It simply says that whatever you consider to be that force, the creative force that seeded an entire universe and our world and our bodies, that force resides within you, within every cell of your body. When we're looking at the DNA bases, They are literally different combinations of these words. God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. Whether we're speaking about an amoeba or a blade of grass or the complexity of a human body, we are literally made of different combinations. If you translate the chemical codes into the alphabets, different combinations of God eternal within the body. The odds of randomly forming this kind of information, a meaningful four-letter word from the alphabets, the Hebrew language, is about 0.00042%, or about 1 in 234,256. I asked myself this question because we all know if you take enough letters, different combinations from a phone book or War and Peace or the Da Vinci Code, the book of your choice, eventually you're going to get letters that fall together and mean something. So what are the chances that this is a fluke? What are the chances that these letters just happen to be, the four elements of life just happen to be exactly the numbers that link to the four letters in the Hebrew alphabet that just happen to say exactly God eternal within the body? The odds of that happening are about 1 in 234,256. I spoke with some statistician friends of mine, and I asked them, I said, what do those numbers mean? What does that number mean? Because I thought maybe the odds would be, 1 in a bajillion, or something like that. And they said, well, Greg, you have to consider this is a very, very short message. It's only 2 words, God eternal within the body. As we go deeper into the code and the sentences become longer, those odds will increase astronomically. They said, what's important about this? Those aren't bad odds, 1 in 234,256, but they take on even greater significance when we consider, number one, that it's these and only these 4 letters of the Hebrew language that correspond to the only 4 elements that create the DNA through that mathematic link, number one. And number two, it's not that we just made a couple of words. When you put the words together, there's a context. It means something, so that the message itself. Now, we began this project with the Hebrew language because it lends itself to this process through Kabbalah and through the gematria that's been so well preserved. When we researched and applied these same principles, what we found is that this works in other languages as well. It definitely works in ancient Arabic as well. It looks like it works in Sanskrit as well. So what we're finding is that in the languages that cement the spiritual traditions for well over half the world's population, the message reads precisely the same no matter what language you translate it into within these ancient languages. These root or core languages is what they're called. So now when we look at our cells, rather than seeing the sticky, gooey protoplasmic stuff that somehow magically creates life, what we're looking at is a library. And within that library, those 46 chromosomes we can actually think of now as books. And the long strands of DNA that make up each chapter in each book, we know, are made of the shorter strands that we call genes, that are the paragraphs and the sentences. And the highest level, the very first, the introductory level, the message from the first day of our existence, reads the same for all of those cells. It literally says, God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. It's almost as if you were a life form from another world and you suddenly found yourself here on Earth and you said, I'd like to know about these Earth creatures. What is their history? Where do they come from? I'd like to read the book of their record that they carry within the bodies themselves. And they opened one of our cells, this is what they would find. That this force, this creative force responsible for the entire universe, if we're to believe the text, and for our bodies, it literally lives inside of us as well. God within the body. It doesn't say God's out there somewhere. It says that God resides within us and works through us in this way. The ancient Hebrew texts teach that this name, the divine name that we find in the cells of all life, the very name that was removed over 6,800 times from the original text, is a name that is to be spoken only in one place, in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And I found this very interesting Because if in fact, if we're to believe the texts, and God had a conversation with Moses almost 4,000 years ago, and in that conversation revealed a personal name that we would know God by in this world, my question is, why wouldn't we be able to use that name all the time? Why wouldn't we be able to call to the creative essence that lives in the cells of our bodies and is responsible for life as we know it, in our prayers and in our meditations and in times of need as well as in times of joy? Well, I began speaking with the scholars, the religious scholars, and many of the rabbis and the Hebrew scholars, and asking them the question. And more often than not, they would refer me to a passage, one passage in Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 5. It says that the place that God will choose to place his name is in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And they interpret that to mean that that is the only place the name should be spoken on the one hand, while on the other hand, only a few more lines down, what we find is that God actually says that this is the name, that his name is the name to be used. It's the name to be used, and that it is dishonoring to use any other name in our prayers. So we have a little bit, I'm sharing this because I want you to be aware the differences of opinion in terms of precisely how and when this name is to be used. The name was believed to be so sacred that if we did utter the name in the presence of one another, we were to do it with our mouths closed so that the essence of the name would never escape our bodies. It's called the swallowing of the name. So when I asked the scholars and the rabbis where this information actually comes from, who said that the name of God that was revealed to Moses on Sinai is a name that we should never share among ourselves? And the differences in the answers told me that this is an artifact in human interpretation. In the original texts, nowhere do we find the instructions that say we should never say this name among ourselves. So I began to ask the question, what if there's another meaning as to why this name isn't to be spoken? What if maybe there is a hidden meaning, and what if these instructions are literal? Is it possible that there is a special way that this ancient name of God is to be shared in our world? Maybe it's not to be spoken the way we would speak a common name. Maybe it's to be shared in another way, perhaps intoned or sung, as many of these ancient names were. Well, to answer this question, we've got to look at the power of our language and the way that language is constructed with what we call vowels and consonants. The consonants are the letters that separate one language from another. When you speak to a linguist, those who make their life profession of studying ancient and modern languages, they say that the consonants are actually what they call the Tower of Babel between the languages. They are what divide humankind in terms of the way we share information in our world, on the one hand, while on the other hand, the vowels that we are so familiar with, those vowel sounds, are almost universal across every language. The vowels transcend the barrier between languages. The vowels bridge and unify human language together. So my question is this: could it be that the secret of the divine name, the name that lives in the cells of our bodies, is it possible that the ancient instructions that invite us to refrain from speaking this name in the presence of one another as a common name, maybe what they're saying to us is that rather than saying the name through the consonants that divide, the name is to be intoned or sung through the vowels that unite. Let me say this again. What if there was a way to say the ancient name of God, Yahweh, by using the sounds of the vowels that unite humankind through language, rather than by using the common consonants, YH, VH, that divide us as peoples? What would that sound like? Is it possible the name is actually to be intoned? Well, this is very interesting. It led to some study, and the work of a colleague and a dear friend of mine, Mr. Jonathan Goldman, who's a pioneer in psychoacoustic research, the relationship between the power of sound and how that sound affects our brains. Jonathan and I have had many discussions about the power of the name of God, the divine name, what it means in our lives, what it means in our bodies. As we researched this together, Jonathan had found that in the texts themselves, there was actually an ancient code that instructs us in precisely this process, that instructs us to create the divine name by intoning the vowels that unite rather than simply speaking the consonants that divide. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you what those vowel sounds are so that you know what you're hearing, and then share with you the actual sound as Jonathan recreates with his voice this intonation of the divine name, ancient name of God. The vowel sounds are pure vowel sounds and may sound a little different than the way we typically think of vowels. In the texts, there is a specific order. This is the code. This is the formula that the ancients said, when you share the divine name of God among the people of this world, this is the way that that sound, that name is to be shared. So I'm going to state the vowel sounds and see if you can hear the name Yahweh in these pure vowel sounds, because they essentially come across as E, A, U, A, E. The vowels E, A, U, A, E. And when we create those together as an intonation, it literally becomes Yahweh. And you can hear Yahweh, Yahweh. So the sound that you hear next will be one iteration of this intonation, the ancient name. I'll invite you just to sit back and listen and feel how this sound feels in your body. And what you have just heard may be the first time in a very long time that this sound, the ancient name of God, has been intoned in the way that it was intended. Once again, rather than speaking it through the consonants that divide as a common word, sharing it, intoning it through the vowels that unite.
There's a huge story that hasn't been told yet to mankind, and we deserve to get this story out to everybody. A lot of people on this planet are, unfortunately, because they've been victims of the religious system, are waiting to die so that they can live. And that's a big problem that we have. What DNA is and how it operates, that's the big secret here, because once you understand that, then you're going to open yourself up to understanding how to reprogram yourself. 432 hertz and 528 hertz. It's been scientifically proven you will literally reprogram your DNA. It's an elevation of consciousness. You've gone from the primordial level of consciousness, the physical meat mode level, to a 5D ascension level of consciousness. Your body is still in the third dimension, but you're thinking from a much higher dimension, a much higher level. DNA is a storage medium. In other words, it's a hard drive. This is peer-reviewed science, by the way, guys. 1 gram of DNA, which is enough to put a little tiny drop on the tip of your finger, can store 700 terabytes of data. Zeros and ones that make your phone work and make your computer work. Zeros and one bits of data, zeros and ones, can be stored on DNA. We're walking USB drives, literally. Inside of your body right now, you can store 13.5 billion years of data. Ironically, that's how old the universe is. You literally have all the information stored in your body from the beginning of time until this very moment, inside of you. So when people say the universe is in you, it's not just a figure of speech. Like, the universe is really in you. Everything that was here from the beginning is here right now. Nothing's been added, nothing's been removed due to the law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. You're just here right now in this particular form at this particular moment, but all the information in your DNA will go back, if you had the capability of decoding it, will allow you to find this out. This is why, and some of you here know that I talk a lot about the Anunnaki, these Atlantean beings that came here in the distant past and genetically modified the existing hominid. They didn't create people, they modified people. If you really analyze the text, and I'm not just talking about Sumerian text, you have to go into several different versions of text, the Enuma Elish and Seven Tablets of Creation, the Atra-Asis epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, you go into the Emerald Tablets, you discover that there was already a hominid here and it was genetically modified. That was our cousin before Homo sapiens existed. What did they do to us to make us into this slave race to do the work for them? They disconnected our DNA. That's what you have called now junk DNA. It's not junk, guys. It's unplugged DNA. Why did they unplug it? Because our cousins, unlike you've been taught, were way smarter than us. I'm not talking technologically smarter. I'm talking about spiritually smarter. More in tune with nature, more in tune with the universe, more in tune with the planet itself, the human resonant frequency of the earth. They had bigger brains, proven because we found the skulls all over the planet. They had, probably because of bigger brains, most likely had bigger pineal glands, which is your spiritual antenna. All humans right now, we have billions of magnetite crystals in our brains. We don't even use them. They probably have access to their magnetite crystals, which is what turtles use to navigate the oceans to come back to where they're going to lay their eggs. And birds, they flock to the south in the winter and so forth, all using the magnetic field. Well, we have the same capability, but right now we've been disconnected from using that. If a tsunami comes inland, before it even hits, all the wild animals run to the mountains and the hills. You never see wild animals getting swept away by a tsunami. We've been disconnected. You know, our DNA has been disconnected. Our consciousness has been reduced. They've already scientifically proven and found out that a worship gene was embedded into the human genome. And they don't know who did it, but they can tell you that it was around 200,000 years ago. The same time that they discovered that chromosome number 2 in the human body was taken out, fused together, and 2 telomere caps were put on each end. Again, this is something done in a laboratory, admitted by mainstream scientists, but they can't figure out who did it. They can only tell you when. Oh, about 200,000 years ago. Well, what do the tablets say? 200,000 years ago is when they first genetically modified the existing hominid on this planet. And these tablets predate any Zecharia Sitchin's translations. Zecharia Sitchin, I want to clear this up real quick before I even proceed, never translated any Sumerian tablets. That's a hoax. He's one of the greatest researchers in the history of this planet because what he did was he took pre-existing translated information and he painted a picture for us based off of the translations that already existed, and he wrote books about it. He never translated the Sumerian tablets. The Sumerian tablets were translated, in some cases, 100 years before he was even born. This is back in the 1700s and 1800s that the Sumerian tablets, the ones that have the information about these beings coming here and so forth and genetically modifying people, the Atra-Asis epic and the Enuma Elish were translated before he was even born. So he never translated, he just painted a picture. He tried to pull together information from the tablets, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Nag Hammadi scripts, the Emerald Tablets, and he tried to paint a picture as to what he thought happened in the ancient past. Was he 1,000% accurate? Probably not. But who is? Nobody's going to be 100% accurate on anything that they put together. We're all researching, we're all searching for information. But just to clear that up, because I got to get rid of that, debunk that big lie that floats around that we shouldn't listen to anything the Sumerian tablets have to say because they were only translated by Zecharia Sitchin. That's actually that's a lie. What does it have to do with DNA? Well, if you look into the Tower of Babel incident that happened, it's recorded in the Bible, but the Bible copied it directly from where? The Sumerian tablets, which predate the Bible by 6,000 years. Ironically, if you look what the majority of religious people that believe in that book, they only think that the earth and people are only 6,000 years old. Why is that? Because the Sumerian tablets date back to 6,000. That's when the most recent recorded history in terms of a lot of information was available. So they're going off of information that was plagiarized into other religious texts. But Sumerians in this epic, there's a Tower of Babel being built in Babylon. This tower is rivaling the tower that was built by these Anunnaki beings, these Atlantean people. Now, whether the tower was a replica, direct, like an identical copy, whether it was like a cargo cult where we kind of deified these people as gods and we're just trying to mimic, and we used straw and clay brick to build a tower that mimicked what they built, it doesn't matter. The fact is, we came together as one, all of us, and we built something together, and our reason behind it was to either honor the gods or duplicate what they were doing. And if you look at some of the ancient texts, biblical or either Sumerian, emerald tablets, even some of the Indian books, you'll discover that people were living for thousands of years. Well, what happened? All of a sudden, they stopped living for, these are human beings, not gods. Humans were living for thousands of years. Now, mainstream science wants to say, oh, it's because they had more oxygen and all this kind of crazy stuff. No, man. We've been genetically modified like the seeds on this planet. That's fine. But let's take it to the next step now. Now they have discovered that epigenetic memories can be passed down 14 generations inside of DNA. Memories. So you're wondering why you feel fear of this and fear of that, or you have a phobia of this or a phobia of that, or you feel strongly about this and not so strongly about that. It's not because it runs in your family. It's because it's in your DNA. Memories are in your DNA. So what does this have to do with us? Well, every single race on this planet has been enslaved. Now, in more recent times, we've had one race try to enslave other races more than others. But, however, you have to understand this. We're all still slaves in the matrix. Every single person on this planet is a slave right now at this moment. So if you see somebody that's stressing, that's under pressure, that's feeling the negative effects of what happened in the past, you can't just wipe it away and say, it's over now, you should forget about it. Because what they're truly doing is they're suffering internally. It's an internal thing, and it's not gonna go away immediately. It's gonna take some time to do what? Reprogram. We have to reprogram the DNA. Now, how does this work with the law of attraction? What we have to do as a people on this planet is we have to literally take the system that the elites put over us to control us and keep us dumbed down and stupid and low vibrational, take that same exact system and flip it. Use the same methods, but for positive, for high frequency information. Music is universal because mathematics is universal. The whole universe is written based on mathematics. And music is also universal. That's why I started a record label called Pantheon Elite Records. I started a record label because I wanted to affect people in a positive way through music. Well, what do I do that's different? We use conscious lyrics. Okay, well, big deal. No, the music is encoded at 432 hertz and 528 hertz because the music on your radio is encoded at what? 440 hertz. Very scientifically proven, extremely detrimental to DNA. Why do they do 440 hertz knowing that it's going to be detrimental to your DNA? Because they want to keep you in a weakened state. Because why? People that come together, people that understand who they are, people that understand how much power is inside of them, will not allow this to happen. We will take control of this planet, become loving beings again, love one another, help one another, and so forth and so on. So they have to keep us in a state of weakness, and of course also sickness. Because when your DNA is weak, you become what? You become sick. So all my music, I put it at 432 hertz and 528 hertz. And guess what's gonna happen? People are gonna start copying us and following suit, and it's gonna become like an epidemic in a positive way. So we gotta start the process there. Programming on TV. That's why I get involved in positive shows and documentaries and movies that teach real information. Because why? I'm trying to get kids to start looking and people start looking at information that's gonna help to reprogram their DNA. Another thing that you can do is positive affirmations. I have a song called Affirmations. If you look it up on any music platform, just look up Affirmations by Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4. It's a song that will literally, when you play it, it's gonna give you a whole song full of affirmations, but with a composed music done by myself and a violin by the name of Richard Wagner, but it's gonna program you. It's been scientifically proven by saying positive affirmations will literally reprogram your DNA. And guess what happens when you begin to do that? You begin to think positive, when you begin to act positive, and then now you're reprogramming yourself, and now you have offspring. It may not be just this instantaneous thing where everybody's just reprogramming and we're all awake and we're all in another dimension. I mean, it could happen because anything is possible. But what I'm trying to do is, more than likely, we're probably going to have to go on a step-by-step realistic process to do this. And it's going to take effort and it's going to take hard work. It's not going to be easy. If you're driving down the highway and somebody cuts you off in traffic, don't flip them the finger and curse them out and say this and that and all this other kind of stuff, especially if you got your kids and stuff in the car. That's just a bad example. What you should do is you should bless that person, bless their path, bless the destination they're trying to get to, and thank the universe that you didn't crash or have a car accident, and just keep on moving in a positive mindset. When you broadcast that type of love frequency, now you're reprogramming your DNA. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. And the only reason why we're in the state we are now as a civilization on the planet is because we're not utilizing enough unconditional love. I try not to let it get me into a state of frenzy or a state of distress. I try to control my physiology and maintain the neutral point, because in the 0 point field is where you can actually focus on the problem. Because once you become completely distressed, worked up, angry, and frustrated, now your mind is putting more energy into that and not into focusing on the situation or the problem that you need to have to fix and solve the situation, which most likely means you probably need to be more understanding, be more patient, and learn a lesson from whatever happened. Now, this is not easy to do, trust me. It's a work in progress. The universe are perfect, all a work in progress. It's a struggle on a daily basis. This is what's really truly called in the ancient texts being born again. Being born again doesn't mean that you believing in a specific deity and that he's going to come and save you. Being born again means it's an elevation of consciousness. You've gone from the primordial level of consciousness, the physical meat mode level, to a 5D ascension of consciousness. You're still in the third dimension, but you're from a much higher dimension, a much higher level. It operates on something called Adinkra codes. And these Adinkra codes can be traced back to the Dogon tribe in Mali, Africa, who actually were the original Egyptians from the land of Chem. They later migrated out to Mali. But they have these codes. These codes represent, they're flat codes on cloth, but when you take them into a third dimension, they represent sophisticated numerical mathematics that depict something called error-correcting codes in our modern science. And these error-correcting codes are what run search engine browsers and websites. So what is governing the function of our space-time reality in the third dimension is a software program that runs websites and search engines. This is peer-reviewed science, guys. This is how powerful you are. So what's happening is you're syncing up with information that's already on the net, and it's downloading into your body and processing that. So with the law of attraction, what happens is the law of attraction is not just something, and you have a lot of people hear you, oh, law of attraction, I'm going to use the law of attraction, but they really don't know how to utilize it the proper way. And it's a real powerful tool to use in your life. And if you really truly understand the law of attraction, you're going to make your life so much easier. It goes along, though, with the reprogramming process. You have to begin to start the reprogram. If you want it to work consistently, you can make it work by accident here or there, spot it. But if you want it to work consistently, you got to continue to reprogram your DNA. And then you have to understand one other thing, quantum entanglement. But in quantum entanglement, which is something in real physics, it's where you use something called parabolic down conversion to get two photons or two particles on the same frequency. So once you get two particles on the same frequency, you could take one particle to the other end of the universe if you had the capability of getting it there. And the particle that's local to you, you can change the information in it, put data on it, and the other particle will change instantaneously, bypassing the speed of light. What does this prove? Distance is an illusion. There is no distance. And scientists now have discovered that the neurons in the brain phase in and out of the third dimensional reality. Look it up. I always give you real science that you can research for yourself. So your neurons, between your synapses, are actually phasing in and out of the third dimension. Where are they going? They're communicating with other realms and other dimensions, syncing and quantum entangling with particles and thoughts in other places. So when you understand this power of manifestation, how to sync with the universal consciousness through something else, which I've labeled the Christ consciousness. So the Christ consciousness doesn't mean you're syncing up with Jesus Christ. What it means is you're syncing up with the idea, the concept of this higher level of consciousness that exists out there in space-time. So when you yourself are aligning yourself properly with the universe, vibrating on a high frequency, and what does that mean, vibrating on a high frequency? That means you're thinking with love, not thinking with hate. You're thinking with power and love, not fear and weakness. And when you do that, that puts your DNA scientifically at a high frequency. This is real science. It's not like, oh, these people just got up here and talking about these frequencies and all this stuff. They don't know what they're talking about. No, I'm talking about real, peer-reviewed quantum physics and quantum mechanics. I want to manifest a spouse into my life, for example. Let's just go with that. I want to manifest a spouse into my life that's operating in the same frequency that I'm operating, that's moving in the same way that I'm moving, because I tried it before where one person's going this way and another person's going that way. It didn't work out. I did it twice. I'm going, man, I'm beating myself up. What am I doing here? Not that that person was all wrong or that I was all wrong, but it just wasn't a perfect match on the frequency level. So I start focusing on this in meditations. I start focusing on envisioning not a face, not a body, just a spirit light being that is in full agreement and movement in what I'm looking to do and accomplish on this planet. Now, because I'm doing that and I'm feeling this love frequency, this vibration and happiness in the meditation, I'm now operating at a higher level. Now I'm syncing up with the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is going to carry that photonic or that particle energy to sync up with the universal consciousness on a quantum entanglement. And now I'm quantum entangled directly with the flower of life, which is the face of God. And now what happens is, just like in standard physics, when you have a globe in space and you see space warps around the globe because of the theory of relativity, Einstein's theory of relativity, now replace the globe Earth with your consciousness, with your mind. Your mind is literally, now that it's quantum entangled, it's warping space-time. It's warping the ether of space itself. And now things that you're looking for are falling. Because what happens to a body in space that warps, things fall toward. Now the things that you want in life are starting to fall towards you. You're creating your own quantum entanglement. You're creating a law of attraction. You have things fall directly towards you. And that's how the law of attraction works. You literally create a gravity well, so to speak, that things happen to fall towards you. And as you begin to operate in this mode, it then begins to happen subconsciously where you're not even having to directly focus. As the universe knows what you need, if you're operating in the right frequency, those things will just occur in your life and pop up for you.
So it's a very different way of looking at DNA. I didn't know what we would find. It was a 12-year-long research project that began when I was an engineer in the last years of the Cold War. And it was intentional for me. I thought if we were going to find a principle that transcends our differences, that would help us maybe never have this kind of a war again, where would we look for that principle? Are we going to look in a book or on a rock? And I said, let's look into life itself. Of course, in the 80s, we didn't know about DNA, what we know now, so it's taken that long. It's an ongoing project. The code exists in many layers. Each layer has its own code to unlock that layer. It's whoever put this there wanted to make sure we understood really clearly how this works. So I've had to work with a team of geneticists, linguists, historians, translators, because I'm no expert in those fields. I'm taking what I do know to bring it together, and then they are validating or clarifying or showing me where it's wrong or where we're thinking about things wrong. So in a nutshell, the message in all life, God eternal within the body, says to us that we're perhaps greater than we've ever imagined in the past. We're part of a greater presence, and that we're empowered to transcend the laws of physics. If we're God within the body, why would we be bound by the laws of physics, or why would we be bound by the laws of biology? Those are relative laws. If we're God within the body, and it has nothing to do with religion. From my perspective, this is purely information, empowering information, helping us to understand who we are in the world. As we see the belief systems falling away that have led us into the 21st century, my feeling is that a new belief will have to be in place to support who we are and what we do believe. And I can imagine nothing greater than understanding that we truly are empowered to love and care for one another on almost infinite terms, and that we transcend the limits that we've believed in the past. And what a beautiful place to begin a new belief system in terms of who we are. So I'm very passionate about this work. I left a successful career in defense and aerospace to pursue this, and all the other work supports this in some way. The bottom line is it's just about helping us to become hopefully who we are and create a better world. The book was sent out for review. The God Code book went out for review. It went to clergy and Catholic traditions, Protestant traditions, Native American, Islamic, Mormon Church, across the board, and they are very different from one another, obviously. All the feedback that we got was that they believed that this work supported their tradition. And to me, that was a beautiful sign that we've cut through the distortions to something that's true. The bottom line is that for all those traditions, we are here on purpose and we're part of a greater existence. And that's what this message says. The details that have developed over the centuries and the distortions, we look past those. Yes, I've seen a change. It's so huge, sometimes it takes a while to sink in. I was with some very serious European audiences, really serious note-taking audiences. Good people, really great people. I like to take my programs overseas first, and what I know is if I can express an idea clearly to a foreign audience through a translator, then I'll probably be able to do it well with our friends here at home. And so I said, what would it mean to you? What would it mean to find a message encoded into the cells of your body? And they were quiet just for a moment, and the Europeans said, well, Greg, it depends on what the message says. You know, and I'm saying, we haven't got that far yet. I'm just asking you, what would it mean if it was there? Not what does it say, but the fact that the message is there, what would that mean? It's such a huge concept. And the idea of somehow creating letters of the alphabet out of the sticky, gooey protoplasmic stuff that we're conditioned to think of as life is a disconnect for a lot of people. But it's all based in numbers. Western science, our science today, describes all life as the elements of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Those are words. And there are numbers that go with those that we can describe on the periodic table. Ancient texts did exactly the same thing. They described life through words. And what we know now is for every one of those letters in the ancient alphabets, in every alphabet, there's a very precise numeric link. And those numbers are what match the scientific way of knowing. And if it sounds complex, it's my inability to make it very simple because it's so eloquent and it's so beautiful and it's so simple and it's right there. And all we do is follow the instructions in a 5,000-year-old text, use our science and some computers, and there's a message in the DNA. And we'll see where it goes from there. When I was an engineer, what I found was that engineers felt that they were left out of the conversation of spirituality, and because the language made no sense to an engineer. And I wrote a little book, it was a workbook called Awakening the Zero Point, in engineering terms to describe what's happening, what I saw happening in the late 1980s. And it caught on and was Xerox copied and ended up becoming its own book and its own phenomenon. And it described what we knew then. And for the most part, it's pretty accurate. There's some things that have changed. The bottom line was that within the changes that we are all feeling in our lives, as we look for reasons, say, what in the world is going on? You know, what's happening with the weather? What's happening? It seems like everybody's going to war. What's happening with my body? I don't sleep the way I used to, or my relationships have gotten really intense. As different as those all seem from one another, they're all related. What we know is that technically, and when I was a geologist, I could see this happening. The magnetic field of the Earth is in decline. It has been for the last 2,000 years. It looks like a chart on the New York Stock Exchange on a bad day. It's started declining. It's never gone back. So we're at the lowest point in planetary magnetics now that we have been in the last 2,000 years. We have seen Earth have this experience in the geologic record. We've seen this happen at least 14 times in the last 4.5 million years. And every time it happens, it precedes a flip, a 180-degree reversal of the magnetic field. So they get weaker and weaker. The magnetic fields decline. They get weaker and weaker and weaker until they drop to zero for a period of a few days, it looks like. Then the field reverses, and what used to be North Pole is South, South Pole becomes North, and the fields begin to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The The last time this happened looked like it was around maybe 9 to 11,000 years ago. At that time, we saw melting of the last ice age. A lot of people believe it was here during that time. And as the ice melted, oceans rose, and that's why we don't see the continent of Atlantis anymore. There's a whole program we could do on that. We know that those fields are declining. We know that's a fact. The scientists have believed that it's linear, that you can know where it was 50 years ago and know where it is today and draw a straight line and say this is where it's going to be. Based on that, they say it's about another 2,000 years before we go into a zero reversal. We know, however, that it is not linear.
What's up, Miss Joe? You become one of my biggest supporters. Thank you for dropping in. The Dream Clairvoyant.
Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to your Capricorn reading. This is the Dream Clairvoyant. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. I do hope you're all doing well, feeling safe and feeling blessed because you are. So this reading is for the zodiac sign Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Venus, or Rising. Holy Spirit, thank you for guiding us. What's going on with my Capricorns? What is going on with my Capricorns? Have the Five of Swords. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Venus, and Rising. Seven of Cups. What is going on with Capricorns? Capricorns, are you thinking about giving up on someone? Possibly even walking away? There's this feeling here. You're carrying this energy of you wanting to give up on someone or something. King of Swords. Clarify the Five of Swords. Ace of Wands. Clarify the Five of Swords. Three of Pentacles. Yeah, so the Five of Swords represents unresolved conflict. It could also represent defeat, surrendering, and letting go. Like just letting bygones be bygones, is what the Five of Swords represents. I don't think this person's done with you. Okay. I don't think this person's done with you, Capricorn. It's like you want to tap out. Like something's been going on and you persevered for a long time, but it looks like now you just want to tap out. You want to say, you know what, I'm out, I'm done. I just want to let this go and put this behind me. And this person, though, is like, no, we're not done. We have unfinished business. The person who you're dealing with, they're like, no, we're not done. We have unfinished business. Look, they still want more. They still want more. What is this? Is this a cat and mouse game? The Two of Wands represents getting a sense of direction, carrying out a plan. I feel like this person's on the lookout for you. Like they're watching. They're on the lookout to see if you're going to leave. If you're going to leave, they're going to stop you. The Nine of Swords, they're going to intervene. The Knight of Swords is a swift action taker. Okay, like this person's like, they're like, leave. If you want to see me act out, if you want to see the crazy come out of me, leave. And they're sitting there. And they're like, if you walk out of those doors, if you walk out of those doors, if you walk out of that door, I'm chasing after you. Like, we're going to show the whole world how crazy we are. Wow. They're just waiting. They're just waiting for you to make a move, and then they'll make a move. Yeah. When you move, I move. Right now, they've just been waiting. They're trying to see where you're headed, because that's where they're headed too. Wherever you're going, they're chasing after you, is how it feels. And this person's like, if you want to see the crazy Adam, you want to.
Hi, Capricorn. How's it going? And welcome to your mid-April general reading. This is for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus, or if you're interested in a Capricorn, welcome all. I am so grateful and glad that you're here. Capricorn, if you'd like to join us for your love reading, that's where we connect with the other person you're dealing with in love, romance, or in relationships. Your love reading is always the first link in the description box below. Also, Capricorn, don't forget to stick around until the end of the reading, where I pick one of your names at random for the pick a card, okay? It could be you this time. I don't know. I'll have to wait to the end to see who wins the pick a card drawing this time. All right, my loves, Capricorn, how are you? I love y'all so much. Thank you for being here. Again, this is your mid-April general reading. We're doing a 9-card spread. And y'all don't forget it's general. Please only take what resonates and leave the rest. Spirit, one of the best and highest messages for Capricorn. You're right there. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus, again for mid-April. This is an old school deck. It's the Archangel Tarot deck, I believe. I was called to use this time. All right. Lovers at the bottom of the deck. Gemini energy for a group of you. That's also counterpart. The Lovers is the counterpart to Devil. Devil is your card in the major arcana. You've got the Lovers at the bottom of the deck. Also, I was like, hey, boo. In your pre-shuffle, I was getting Capricorn a lot of like, so I'll talk to Spirit. I'll say Capricorn, and I was going, Cappy, Capricorn, oh, Capster. Nicknames and all that's going to be really significant for this group as well. Something divinely guided meant for you is just appearing here, okay? Intimate relationships. This is good news around health for a lot of you. But the Lovers card, again, it's like it's your match. It's the other side. It's the duality here, okay? Wow. Lovers card is a divinely guided person and or situation meant for you. What's been going on with Capricorn? Where have y'all been recent past? You came right out. You came right out. It's called the ego here, but 15 significant. I'm seeing double 15. Also 6, which is 12, which is 3. Any of those numbers could be really significant to this group. Okay, renewal. So you've got your card out, the Devil. You've got renewal, which is judgment. Okay, you have been looking at yourself like crazy. High Priestess. These are all major arcanas. These are all very intense energies. You've been really harsh on yourself. I'm going to say that. Judgment on your own card. You're like being too critical on how you show up at work. This is like the energy of being too hard on myself about not reaching a certain goal. I'm hearing a lot of like busybody energy. What's been going on with Capricorn, please? It's been in the recent past. Another major arcana. These are major, is a big deal when we get all major arcanas. Big player energy, not small time, big time. The Empress came out, Divine Feminine, number 3. You're in alignment though. Divine Feminine here, a lot of abundance around you. Gold and red are really calling at me. That could be significant. Huh. You've really been looking at your situation. Where am I at in life? Where am I at in this situation? I'm going to go ahead and say again, being also too hard on yourself. But with the Empress, it's like there's been a deep calling for you, Capricorn, that you deserve better in a situation. Divine Feminine showed up. What's currently happening with Capricorn? What's the current energy? 4 of Wands. Union, marriage for some of you. It's a commitment card. 7 of Wands. Current energy, 9 of Cups, 9 of Waters. This is also for Pisces that I worked on earlier. This was in the heart of their reading. So some of you, if you're dealing with the Pisces, might want to check that out. 9 of Cups, you've got a wish fulfillment coming around. A 4 of Wands, a commitment, a union. 9 of Wands. A lot of you devil renewal empress have renewed your energy, and you've stepped out of the shadows into the light. Darkness into the light has been your vibe. Things that you were scared of, you're like, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm getting that for y'all as well. And that's bringing you a wish fulfillment around the Four of Wands, a commitment, okay? What's happening with Capricorn? Nine of Wands that showed up too earlier, and Seven of Swords. So there is a lot of like double nines here. You are at the end of some type of cycle. You're at the end of, you're about to cross the finish line in a situation. Lovers came right back out. Also, what is this? What is this? High Priestess, y'all know what it is. Okay, we've got your card, the Four of Wands in this row, and then now the Lover's card. That's literally shadow to light, or coming in union with your light and shadow side within yourself. But this is like, wow. You are going to have a choice when this comes in, because this card specifically talks about, I have to make a decision now. What's coming in for Capricorn, please? Last two for mid-April. Thank you, Spirit, for these messages. This is really intense in a good way. Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. This is a hot, passionate new beginning. You are about to be extremely excited about whatever this is. We have the Five of Wands, the Three of Wands, the Ace of Wands, the King of Air, the Queen of Cups, the Page of Pentacles. Whatever's coming in, other people, other parties, other situations are going to be so pissed that they skipped you, passed you up, didn't choose you, because you have the fire now. You have the thing now. And this deck, the Three of Wands, abundance, things looking very good, long-term plans. Three of Wands is like, I'm getting something going and I'm going to move forward with my plans, with my arrangements. Even though Nine of Wands, you're a little tired, you're a little scared, you're a little like overwhelmed and burdened here. With the Empress, you know for the divine feminine within you that you deserve something better than what you've been dealing with. And you finally it's like two-folded. As you, Devil, Four of Wands, Lovers, as you come into union with you, the light, the shadow, the good, the bad, all that within you, because all of those are you mixed within, right? Once we identify and look at that, I'm proud of who I am. Nine of Cups, you start bringing in, it's like attraction energy. When your vibration gets so, I'm just seeing alignment, 11, 11, 11, 11, Four of Wands, the duality of you, like you're in alignment. You can't help but resonate and attract other people, opportunities, and situations that are on the same vibration. You can't help it. They will just come to you. Lover's card. It'll just magically like, oh, that's a great idea from that person. And oh, I got this great idea. And look at that email I just got. Like things come in when you choose yourself. And again, kind of capping this reading, Five of Wands, Three of Wands, opportunities, people, places, situations that couldn't see your potential, that couldn't see your light. Well, guess what? They're on the sidelines now, big time. This is very, very, very good. Everything that you've been waiting for is coming in. I was looking at the Five of Wands again.